The two of you walked behind your much rowdier friends, keeping close to one another as your eyes darted to your surroundings. You kept your spine abnormally straight, with your chest puffed out, though your nervousness was evident by your tight-lipped expression. The same could not be said for your dark-haired counterpart. You glanced at him from the corner of your eye, noticing how hunched over his stature was, more than usual, that is. His eyes were swimming with fear, darting around him so fast it was hard to tell just what he was focused on, if he was focused at all. Neither of you paid attention to the pair of braver people in front of you, leading you to stagger backwards after running into a stronger frame.
How are you guys holding up?
Mirio asked, giving the both of you a thumbs up, despite whatever answer you gave.
Good!
Do you remember a time he ever gave us a chance to answer? You leaned towards Tamaki and whispered.
No, not really,
he mumbled back. You took a moment to actually look around, letting your eyes adjust to the darkness and make out the figures looming in the shadows. The four of you had stopped for some reason that your paranoid mind had tuned out. The moon lit up the backs of tombstones, the breeze caused empty branches to shake, and a large ominous building sat a few yards away. Your focus fell on that, rather than the creepy idea of you being surrounded by the deceased. It was a run-down church of some sort, and seemingly untouched for decades. Vines had taken over as different parts started to crumble, and a lot of dirt and grime plagued the once crisp holy walls. Your eyes had to have been playing tricks on you. There was no possible way the curtains in the window pulled themselves shut. You must have been staring for far too long, or your body seemed far too stiff, causing Tamaki to lightly brush his fingertips against your wrist to snap you back to reality.
Are you alright?
He asked, letting his fingers linger against your skin.
You seem tense.
Tamaki, are you really one to talk? You teased, trying to rein your brave-faced facade back in. You're always tense.
Exactly why I'm concerned. I'm always nervous, but you aren't usually like this.
His voice grew quiet, afraid of crossing a line. It's nothing. You laughed half-heartedly. It's just a creepy place to be if you think about it. We're surrounded by dead people in the middle of the night. Wait, what are we even doing here? You turned to where Mirio once stood, now blinking in surprise and the realization that he was gone. Where did Mirio go?
He and Najiri left a little while ago. Said something about needing to go head back to town to get something.
How long ago did they leave?
10 minutes ago.
You stood there and let me space off for 10 whole minutes? You asked, your expression a mixture of confusion and despair.
I didn't want to interrupt you in case it upset you.
You sighed, shaking your head and raising a hand to point at the church. Your hand shook violently and concerned Tamaki to the point that he gently pushed your hand down to your side, neither of you realizing just how long he held on to them afterwards. That's what I was spacing out on. Doesn't it seem weird to you?
Everything about this trip seems weird to me.
Well, you aren't wrong. You squinted in an attempt to focus your vision, honing in on the window you previously saw movement in. But I saw something in there. Actually, I saw the curtain move, not an actual person, but still, I definitely saw something.
Please don't say that,
he stammered with a nervous smile. I'm not kidding, Tama. The use of the simple nickname you gave him let him know that you meant business. I watched the curtain pull shut. There's someone in there. He looked between you and the building, slowly shrinking as he folded into himself out of fear. Without warning, he jumped up with a small squeal, which caused you to do the same. The wind blowing through the empty branches above you made a soft whistling sound that could be mistaken as a howl. Just as the two of you started to settle down and catch your breath, your attention was turned to the loud calling of a crow, startling you enough to cause shivers down your spine. The both of you huddled close together, standing close enough to relish in each other's body heat and let silence fall upon you as a comfort. Leaning against the closest tombstone, you felt Tamaki lightly brush his fingertips against your arm, keeping his eyes glued to your shoes. You welcomed the action by moving to intertwine your fingers together and smile at the blush that took over Tamaki's face. "Scared, Tamaki?" you teased, your cheeky smile dropping the instant he looked at you as though you were ridiculous.
What kind of question was that?
His voice came out shrill.
Besides, you're scared too.
I'm not scared. I'm just unsettled by the idea of being out here. At night. I already said that.
Afraid of the dark?
Afraid of what's in the dark? You swung your intertwined hands in emphasis. Think about it. Who knows what's really out here? Anything can come up and...
Please stop that,
Tamaki begged once again, cutting you off by placing his free hand over your mouth. Both of you took a moment before realizing just how close your bodies had become, causing a blush to spread across every inch of exposed skin between the two of you. Tamaki removed his hand and instead moved to scratch the back of his neck nervously, though you kept your hold on his other hand.
Sorry,
he started, clearing his throat and staring at the ground, only looking at you with quick glances.
It's just, that story Mirio told us. I don't want you to accidentally jinx it.
Which story? He's always spouting out nonsense.
The one about...
His eyes trained on the church, leaning his face in close to whisper as if something could hear him.
The nun.
Oh, you whined. Why did you remind me? Now what I saw made more sense. The two of you turned your full attention to the building now, letting your eyes hyperfixate on any view you may have into the building. Recalling the story Mirio made, you envisioned each and every scene, letting it play out in front of your eyes in real time. It was a simple story, really. A soft, gentle nun who was loved amongst everyone had met her untimely end with a brutal swing of the axe held by one angry teenage orphan who couldn't handle rejection well. But the details Mirio had used to spruce up his story, sound effects and all, set up a terrifying and gory play. Both you and Tamaki both cringed, knowing just what the other had pictured.
Hey,
Tamaki whispered.
Do you see that? The stained glass window?
You looked through the colors, watching a dark shadow pass behind the shards of glass on the second floor. It moved from one window to another. The closer it got to the clear window at the front of the building, the tighter your hand held on to Tamaki's. Before either of you could process what you had been witnessing, a bright white figure smacked against the window, a loud screeching howl following suit. The figure seemed crazed, eyes bulging and mouth open wide to compensate their scream. Tamaki and you noticed the tattered habit it donned, the fear finally striking into both of your hearts. Screams bubbled up from both of your throats, though Tamaki surprised you almost as much as the ghost had. Watching the ghost of nuns past must have overrode his fear, kicking his hero instincts into high gear. Surprisingly, strong arms lifted you from the ground, throwing your face against the side of his neck as he carried you bridal style, running in the opposite direction of the church. Fighting back a lecture the entire way and settled on simply screaming about how he warned you about jinxing the story as he ran as far away as he could without looking back. Little did the two of you know, your friends had made their way into the church, as you and Tamaki had been distracted, stood together and nervously attempted your version of flirting. Mirio and Najiri had planned from the beginning to scare the new awkward friends into staying as close as they could, comforting one another in an attempt to finally get them together, though it seemed to work a little too well. They laughed at their plans, watching as Tamaki had somehow found the courage to whisk you away. But what were the two of you watching on the floor above?